The night their knuckles hit my front door, something inside me clicked the same way my dad's old deadbolt used too loud. Final, protective. I'd just poured coffee into the enamel mug he passed down to me, the one with the chipped rim and the faded outline of an eagle. The porch light threw a warm circle onto the cedar boards I'd sanded with my own hands. It smelled like rain on hot dirt, and the lake down the hill breathed a cool hush across the pasture. Then 3 hard knocks. Not neighborly. Official. I opened the door to find 2 men in dark uniforms, hats tipped low, shiny shields flashing under my porch light. "Evening," the taller one said, voice stiff. "We're here about the citations." He snapped a clipboard like he'd practiced in the mirror. "Violations issued by the Lake Briarwood Homeowners Association. We're collecting fines tonight." That word, collecting, landed hard. Their shields said community enforcement, which is not something our sheriff's office wears. The shorter one held out a ticket book with a gold leaf border like it had been decorated for Sunday school. My eyes went from their shoes to their cuffs to their belts. Nothing matched. No radio, no body cam. No county patch. No scuffs where real work leaves a mark. Behind me, a door clicked. My wife, Rachel, stepped into the foyer in full uniform, the one she earned by graduating top of her academy class. The porch light caught the reflective thread around her real badge, and the taller man's throat bobbed. "I'll take it from here." "Hun," she said quietly to me, then to them, calm and clear. "Gentlemen, which department?" "Community enforcement," the tall one repeated, slower now, as if enunciating could make it true. "We're working with the HOA. Rachel's eyes softened in a way that wasn't kind. "Which law are you enforcing at my house at 9:18 p.m. on a Tuesday?" The shorter one shuffled. "Noise, non-conforming fencing, and an unauthorized flagpole." I felt my jaw tighten. "Dad sunk that pole after he got home from the mill for the last time. We raised the flag together at sunrise on the 4th, every year, no matter the weather. Unauthorized, they called it. Like my father's hands needed permission, Rachel stepped a half-inch forward. "I'm with the county sheriff's office. Badge number 8142. State statute makes impersonating an officer a felony. So, we're going to clear up a few things before anyone mentions collecting." She lifted her radio and pressed the button. The hiss of dispatch cut through the cicadas. "Dispatch, this is Sergeant Walker. Do we have any authorized details with HOA personnel in Briarwood tonight?" A beat. Another. Then the flat voice. "Negative." Rachel looked at the tall one. "Names." He licked his lips, rain glistening at the brim of his hat. "Officer Cole and Officer—" "You're not officers," she said, without raising her voice. "You're private citizens wearing costumes?" The shorter one tried to bluff. "We're contracted to enforce compliance." "Show me your contract." Rachel didn't blink. "Show me any statute that says private contractors can demand fines on a doorstep. Show me the court order that lets you step on this porch and call it official business." Silence spread between us like a cold front. From the street, I saw a shape watching Marlene Haverford, the HOA president. Standing under her umbrella like a queen in a storm, she'd been after me since I replaced our old gate with steel rails that kept coyotes out and grandchildren in. Uniform standards, she'd sniffed. Setbacks. Aesthetic harmony. What she really wanted was obedience. Neat little boxes. People who said yes ma'am to a clipboard. Rachel kept going, steady. "Here's what we are going to do. You're going to place the clipboard on the porch rail. You're going to step off our property. Then you're going to wait by the curb while I verify every single thing you just told us." She turned her shoulder and spoke into the radio again, giving our address. Possible impersonation. Possible attempted theft by deception. Send a unit. The tall one's fingers trembled. He set the clipboard down like it was a hot skillet. "We're just trying to keep the neighborhood in compliance," he muttered. "You keep nothing in compliance here," Rachel said. "The law does. And the law isn't on your side tonight." They backed away. I could feel my heart thudding. Not with fear, but with that old promised stubbornness I inherited with Dad's flag. This land is ours. We take care of it. Nobody shakes it out of you on your front steps. When the patrol car rolled up, its lights washed the rain-slick street in blue and red. The officer stepped out, nodded to Rachel, and separated the two men for questions. Marlene folded her umbrella and hurried toward them, voice rising. "We're within our rights. Read the bylaws." "Ma'am," one of the deputies said, "bylaws don't outrank the penal code." They took statements. They photographed the phony badges. They asked me to email the doorbell camera footage. The shorter man finally admitted he printed the shields at a trophy shop. "We didn't mean any harm," he said. "It was just part of the HOA's compliance drive. We thought uniforms would smooth things over." "Nothing about a lie makes things smooth," I said. My voice surprised Milo, quiet, like the lake at night when the moon is high. "It makes them slippery. Folks fall." By the time the lights winked off and the deputies pulled away with those two in the back seat for more questioning, the rain had thinned to a sour mist. Marlene stood alone on the curb. "This isn't over," she called. I stepped onto the porch, put my hand against the cool steel of the doorframe. "It is for tonight," I said. Inside, Rachel hung her hat on the hook my dad carved with a pocket knife. She poured my coffee back into the pot and rewarmed it on the stove. We sat at the window watching our dark yard breathe, listening to the refrigerator hum. "They'll try a different angle," she said, matter of fact. "People like that always do. What do we do?" I asked. She reached for my hand. "We do what we always do. Tell the truth. Stand our ground. And we make a record so clean a judge could shave in its reflection." I nodded and looked at the flag out front, rain-damp and limp. "Tomorrow," I said, "we raise it at sunrise." "Tomorrow," she agreed. And in that quiet, I made a promise that felt like a knot tied in a rope. Next time they came, we wouldn't just defend our porch, we'd defend our whole neighborhood from the rot that had slithered into its rules. The next morning smelled like wet leaves and black coffee. The lake threw up a silvery fog, and the old wind chime under the eave twitched now and then like it was thinking of singing. I walked the fence line, boots sinking a little where the clay ran soft, then raised Dad's flag while Rachel read statutes on her phone. When the fabric caught a thin breeze and cracked once like a rifle salute, I felt my spine lengthen. By 9, the HOA email had arrived. Notice of fines $250 for non-conforming fence height. $104 improper placement of refuse can. $75 for flagpoles set without architectural approval. And a $300 special assessment for community enforcement costs. At the bottom, in bold, failure to pay within 7 days will result in lien and suspension of amenities. It was signed by Compliance Director Briarwood HOA. No name. Rachel whistled softly. "They put it in writing." "I thought they would," I said. "People who bluff prefer paper." "Sounds official?" We started a file. Printed the email. Printed the bylaws. Printed the covenants. Printed the county ordinances. I highlighted the paragraph that said flagpoles were permitted if below 30 feet and set back 5 feet, which mine was. Rachel underlined the HOA provision that forbade nighttime enforcement visits. I stapled the sheriff's incident number to the top of the stack like a badge. By lunch, our neighbor Al stopped by with his cap in his hands. "Heard about last night," he said, embarrassed like our trouble was his. "He's been here since the subdivision was pecan, orchard, and gravel. Marlene sent me a warning last month for parking my john boat by the shed. Said it offends the community character. Been here 32 years. Never knew character was allergic to a little aluminum." "Sit," I said, pushing a chair out for him. "Tell us everything." The stories rolled out like fence staples in a coffee can. Miss Janine fined for a tomato trellis. A veteran told to take down his service flag because the color clashed with the brick. New families warned for chalk drawings on sidewalks. The board never held proper hearings. Appeals vanished. Compliance officers showed up at odd hours to educate. Folks felt embarrassed, isolated, then quiet. That's how this stuff grows like mold in a damp corner, spreading through silence. Rachel took notes while Al talked. Pen steady, handwriting neat like always. "You think they'll try the lien thing?" he asked. "If we let them," she said. but we're not going to. I called the county clerk, asked about liens. Only valid if tied to lawful assessments, due process followed, and proper notice filed, clerk said, voice sharp as a paper cut. We see a lot of nonsense. She told me exactly what to look for. Certified mail receipts, hearing minutes, signed decisions. I checked our stack. The HOA had none. At 2, a manila envelope appeared in our mailbox, hand-delivered. Inside was a summons to compliance hearing scheduled for Thursday at 7 p.m. in the HOA clubhouse. It was signed by the compliance director again, still no name, and notarized by someone whose seal looked like it had been pressed with a bottle cap. I held it up to the light. The date in the notary box read last year's. Rachel blew out a breath. They're either sloppy or arrogant, or both, I said. We called 3 neighbors we trusted and told them what we had. Then we went bigger. Rachel typed up a calm, factual message for the community Facebook group. We had 2 individuals at our door last night claiming to be officers. They were not, deputies responded. We have incident number ######. If you have similar experiences, please contact the sheriff's office and keep copies of all notices. We will be attending Thursday's hearing with documentation. We didn't accuse. We didn't shout. We invited. The replies started like drips and turned into rain. Photos of citations, scans of assessments, stories from widows, new parents, old-timers, and the guy in the split level who never waves. Someone posted a screen capture of a compliance director email signature that, if you zoomed in, showed the name M. Haverford in the tiny properties field. That's our president, I said. Rachel smiled without humor. And she's hiding behind a title she gave herself. We spent the evening drafting a timeline and a packet. Doorbell cam stills of the fake uniforms. The sheriff's officer names, the statutes, the covenants, the bylaws Marlene liked to quote without reading. We added a cover sheet with 3 short sentences. We believe HOA leadership has exceeded its authority. We believe board members or their agents impersonated law enforcement. We request a lawful public accounting of all enforcement practices, fines, and assessments. Before bed, I stood at the dark window and watched the clubhouse lights down the street wink out. The flag out front hung like a quiet idea. Dad, I whispered, feeling foolish and honest at the same time, I'm trying to do this right. Not loud, not mean, just right. The next day, a certified letter showed up from the HOA's legal counsel, stamped with a city firm's logo. It threatened further action, attorney's fees, and suspension of all privileges. The last line told me to govern myself accordingly. It was ash-gray language. All smoke and no heat. Rachel read it, then reached for her phone. I'm calling the firm, she said, dialing. She introduced herself, gave her badge, asked for the partner whose name was on the letter. When he picked up, she read the 2 sentences that matter in our state. Impersonating a peace officer is a felony. Conspiracy to commit same is a felony. She recited the incident number, the timestamp, and told him we'd be at the hearing with deputies present. He was quiet for a long time, then said they'd be reviewing the matter internally. At night, someone dumped a bag of compliance door hangers on our porch, the same glittering gold crest, the same pretend signatures. When I knelt to pick them up, I realized my hands weren't shaking. I wasn't angry. I was steady, like driving a nail square, one clean blow at a time. Thursday came. We ironed our clothes, not because anybody needed a show, but because my mama taught me to show up neat when you're speaking truth. Rachel braided her hair tight and pinned it off her collar. I tucked Dad's coin in my pocket. We walked to the clubhouse with 3 neighbors at our side, and a half-dozen more falling in along the sidewalk, quiet as a church procession. Inside, the folding chairs had been set in rows, a cheap cookie tray sweating on a plastic table. Marlene stood at the front, pearls at her throat, smile as stiff as starch. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and paper. Welcome, she said brightly, eyes flicking to Rachel's uniform. We're here to ensure compliance and community harmony. Rachel placed our packet on the front table like it was a loaf of bread we were offering the hungry. "We're here to ensure the law is followed," she said. Marlene's smile tightened. "We'll begin with a reading of violations." Rachel lifted a hand. "We'll begin with the sheriff's deputies," she said. And then the doors opened behind us, and two uniforms walked in. Deputy Morales and Deputy Green took the side of the room near the ficus plant that never looked watered. Their presence settled the air. People sat up a little straighter. Marlene's eyes flashed like a porch light catching moths. "Officers," she said, "how nice of you." To Morales held up a palm. "We're here at the request of residents who reported possible criminal activity related to impersonation and fraudulent enforcement. We're observing and available to keep this meeting calm." He glanced around the room. Everybody breathe. "We're neighbors." I handed the deputies our packet. Rachel handed them a USB drive with doorbell footage. Green slid it into a small viewer and watched, jaw working. When the clip ended, he wrote something on his pad and nodded once. Marlene clicked her tongue. "Let's not derail. Item 1. Non-conforming fence height at the Walker residence." Fines totaling. Rachel's voice didn't rise, didn't shake. "Before we discuss fences, we need to discuss authority. Who is the compliance director who sent fines and scheduled this hearing?" She placed a fingertip on the blank signature line in the notice. Name. Marlene's smile lost its starch. "It's a rotating post," she said vaguely. "We keep it anonymous to avoid harassment." Green spoke up. "Ma'am, anonymity is not how lawful governance works. If you levy money, you show your name." A murmur rolled through the chairs. Al cleared his throat. "I'd like to know who knocked on Miss Janine's door at 10 at night about a tomato trellis."
"Order,"
Marlene snapped. But the words sounded smaller with uniforms in the room. Rachel continued. "We're requesting a public accounting of all fines and the legal basis for collecting them at residents' doors. We're requesting minutes of all hearings, notice records, and the contracts with any third parties acting on behalf of the HOA. A board member at the edge, thin glasses, nervous hands looked down at his folder. "We, don't have minutes for every hearing," he said, voice papery. "Do you have any?" Green asked. "Some," he said, "even smaller." Marlene found her voice. "We're volunteers. We do our best." "No one forced you to volunteer for power," Rachel said. "But once you took it, the law came along." The shorter of the two fake officers from our porch slunk into a back row late, ball cap tugged low. He found a seat and tried to fold himself into nothing. Morales clocked him and jotted another note. A woman I'd never met stood up near the cookie table, palms open like she was offering peace. "This place used to feel like a neighborhood," she said, voice trembling. "Lately it feels like we're all in trouble." Her eyes watered. "I just want my kids to ride bikes without me worrying about door hangers and emails that make my heart race." Silence sat down with us. You could hear paper shift and someone popped their knuckle. Rachel softened. "This doesn't have to be a fight. It can be a correction." She looked at Marlene. "But it starts with you telling the truth." Something in Marlene's posture changed, the way a pine leans when the soil gives. Her shoulders slumped for one private second, then bristled again. "Fine," she said, chin lifting. "I signed the notices. I created the compliance director title because people ignored me when I signed as president. I hired a private security company for visual presence. If they wore uniforms, it was to make residents take it seriously. We have standards in this neighborhood. You broke the law in this neighborhood," Green said, not unkindly. "We're opening a case file on the impersonation. We'll need the name of the company you hired and any instructions you gave them." His voice gentled. "If you cooperate, it will go better for everyone." The board member with glasses tugged his tie loose. "I told you this would go too far," he whispered, loud enough for the first 3 rows to hear. "I told you." Marlene's lips thinned. "I will not be humiliated in front of humiliation as a feeling," Rachel said. "Accountability is a fact." Morales turned to the room. "Neighbors, here's what happens next. We'll be taking statements from anyone who had a similar visit at their home. We'll refer the uniform impersonation to the county attorney. Civil matters about fines and liens are separate. But if procedures weren't followed, Those can be challenged and often dismissed. For now, no one pays anything tonight. No one opens their door to anyone who can't present real credentials. Call us, we will come. A slow exhale moved through the chairs. People nodded, looked at each other, looked at Rachel. I felt something loosen in my chest, like a knot easing. I stood. We're calling for a special election, I said, surprising even myself with the steadiness of my voice. New board. Transparency. We'll get this back to neighbors taking care of neighbors. Al clapped once, then again, and the sound caught like a spark in dry grass. It wasn't loud. It was sure. 2 months later, after interviews, subpoenas, and more paperwork than a tax office in April, the county announced charges. Misdemeanor, false representation. Conspiracy to commit same, and for the security contractor, unlawful use of a badge-like insignia, no prison sentences, fines, probation, community service, which felt fitting. The firm that sent the letter issued a quiet apology and withdrew. Several of the fines, including ours, were voided for lack of due process. The board resigned under pressure. We held our election on a Saturday with lemonade and folding tables. Folks you'd trust with your spare key got voted in. We wrote rules in plain English and posted minutes online. You'd be amazed how problems shrink in sunlight. On the first morning, after the new board seated, I took my coffee to the porch before the sun cleared the ridgeline. Rachel joined me, her hair down for once, no uniform. Just the woman I married under a maple that turned like a bonfire every October. The flag lifted on a clean breeze. The lake wore the sky like a mirror. Somewhere a lawnmower coughed awake. Ordinary sounds. Good sounds. Rachel squeezed my knee. You did good, she said. We did it, I corrected. You, me, Al, Miss Janine with the trellis, the mom with the bikes, the deputies who showed up quiet and firm. We all did, she smiled. That's what a neighborhood is supposed to feel like. I thought of my dad's hand over mine the first time we raised the flag. Keep the rope untangled, he'd said, simple as scripture. If you don't, the wind will do it for you, and not kindly. I watched the fabric lift and fall and understood it better than I had as a kid. Sometimes standing up isn't loud. It's a clean file folder, a calm voice, a porch light left on, a hand raised at a meeting. It's choosing the slow strength of due process over the quick sugar of payback. It's neighbors deciding to be neighbors again. If you've wrestled with an HOA that forgot who it serves, tell me about it down in the comments. I read every single one. Because stories like yours keep good folks brave, and if you believe some fights are worth having, especially the kind that end with a quiet cup of coffee on your own porch, hit subscribe. Let's stand up together and keep our little corners of America honest, neighborly, and free.